Joining me now to discuss the past year and what to expect for the crypto market in 2023 is John Haar, Managing Director of Swan Private Client Services at Swan Bitcoin. And John, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Obviously, the May 2022 crypto market crash was devastating. The market is still feeling the shockwaves of that event in addition to others later on. So let's talk about that collapse. What gave way to it?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me on. So I would say 2022 Bitcoin's price was mainly driven by a few different things, but mainly the broader macro environment being quite weak, and then several crypto contagion events. And on the macro side, we had CPI being higher than expected, stickier than most people expected. This caused the Fed to raise interest rates more quickly than people expected. And this led to what some people were calling the popping of the everything bubble. So you had a year in 2022 where stocks, bonds, Bitcoin, crypto were all down very materially. And then on the crypto contagion side, there were multiple collapses in 2022, including some crypto tokens as well as platforms. So that includes names that people have probably heard, but things like Terra Luna, Celsius, Voyager, BlockFi, and most recently Alameda and FTX. Now, to be clear, the collapses of these tokens and platforms does not directly affect Bitcoin as a network and a protocol, but the collapses do affect Bitcoin's price because they lead to significant selling pressure, plus negative narratives surrounding Bitcoin, which do matter. But pretty amazingly, in the face of all that, Bitcoin today is still a global monetary asset, which is valued at approximately $325 billion.
Thanks for all that context. Now, you mentioned FTX. Of course, not a day goes by. It seems like that we don't have a new headline about the FTX collapse or its founder, Sam Bankman-Fried. What key lessons can we learn from that?
Sure. Let's start with the big one, which is Bitcoin does not equal crypto. And to compare Bitcoin and crypto, you've got to ask yourself, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is non-state, immutable, digital, fixed supply, peer-to-peer, censorship-resistant money. Crypto, on the other hand, I'm not sure if you could get a clear answer as to what exactly crypto is. And different tokens and projects will have very different answers to that question. And even the same project might change their answer from one year to another. And one thing we saw very clearly in 2022 is that the world of crypto has a lot of flawed designs, pump and dump schemes, unregistered securities, or just outright scams. So that's Bitcoin, not crypto. And number two would be the importance of self-custody versus third-party custody. So if you held your Bitcoin in your own self-custody during 2022, that means you were just a spectator for the collapse of Celsius, BlockFi, FTX, etc. Unfortunately, a lot of people learned this lesson the hard way. And this is why Bitcoiners are constantly saying, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. And then an additional lesson learned also related to custody would just be if you're going to use a third-party custodian, I think the FTX collapse highlighted the fact that there are very different custodians out there. There are some platforms which will use customer funds to engage in very risky or maybe fraudulent activities. And there are other platforms that just exist as pure custodians. Which actually just hold your assets. But I do have to stress the fact that if you take self-custody of your Bitcoin, you no longer need to trust or worry about what a custodian is doing.
All right, John. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for today. But thank you so much for breaking that down for us and giving us all that context. That's John Haar, Managing Director of Swan Private Client Services at Swan Bitcoin.